Hi, this is David Feldberg from Team Infinite, and I'm here to give you a disc golf tip. First question people always ask me when they're learning to play is, what kind of putting style should I use? And there's multiple ones to choose from. So the most common kind are called spin putting and push putting, and there's a lot of in-between variances. So the real question is, why would you use one or the other? Not why one's better than the other, because they're not better than one another. They both have their advantages and they both have their disadvantages. Let's talk about the difference. So a spin putt is when you throw a putter at the basket and your wrist rotates forward to where your thumb goes from a 9 o'clock position to at least noon. And that would be called spinning the disc. Okay, and that's called a spin putt. Where that is effective more than the other styles of putts is when you're putting into a headwind or a distance. So for sure, if you want to do those kind of putts, that's what you want to use, is a spin putt. Now, a more preferable closer putt that you've seen a lot of the world champions use, like Ken Climo, Barry Schultz, for example, before we saw the new age kids, was called a push putt. Now, what separates a push putt from a spin putt is that a push putt, you just open your hand. You don't twist your wrist. You allow the disc to go forward. You still start around 9 or 10 o'clock with your thumb, and all you do is open your hand, and you let it come out, as if you're shaking hands with somebody. That's an expression people use, shake hands with the basket. Now, whereas a push putt is more acceptable for inside the circle putts, really close putts, and tailwinds. Because when you're putting a push putt on a tailwind, it rides the wind. So what you want to be able to do is always putt where you're riding the wind. Now, one thing that I think about when I'm doing this push putt versus spin putt thing is that there hasn't been very many players who have incorporated both. So if you're at home and you're thinking, what should I do? Learn both styles. Learn to push putt close up with tailwinds and some crosswinds. Learn to spin putt far away and use it into headwinds, and you'll be the complete player. We haven't seen that player yet, and I'm looking for him. Hopefully it's you. And I just wanted to give you an example. We talked about what a push putt and a spin putt was in the past. Let's see what they look like. So the difference is when someone lines up a push putt, they'll line their foot up with the target, and they'll line their shoulder up with the target, and they'll be tended to hold the disc a little more nose up than a spin putter, and they drop it straight down to their body. People like Ricky Wysocki bring it down to their legs. People like myself bring it to here. If you're Ken Climo, you could bring it and move your knee out of the way. That's a Bradley Williams Ken Climo move. But in general, it's a up and down movement where you just open your hand and it looks something like this. Okay? Now, the spin putt that you'll see, the footing can be anything you want, but you'll tend to see that spin putters have their foot directly, not off center a little bit like you see the push putters, but directly centered with the pole. That's because they're trying to line up their thumb to finish directly at the target. So a spin putt would look like this. It's a very similar, but instead of dropping up and down, it's more of an into the body like Paul Macbeth and out correctly. So let's see that. So that's a spin putt. Now, one thing that I want to tell you that's the best tip for this. Paul Macbeth became the best player and best putter in the world. People say it was other players, but you don't win 5 world titles by not being the best putter. What does he do differently than the other spin putters? Because before him, they would say, you have to be a push putter to be a world champion. But he broke that mold, and he did it on purpose. But what he did is, if you watch him, what makes a push putt great is that you can hit the same spot over and over again because it's not this movement where it's all varied. But Paul Macbeth practiced, and if you watch Paul Macbeth, he brings his disc in to his body for his spin putt instead of down to the side. That allows him to maintain the line that he's looking for and hit the release. So why is Paul Macbeth better than anybody else at putting? Is it that? No, the answer is that he can hit his mark over and over again because his technique is slightly different than yours at home. So if you take a picture of Paul Macbeth when he's lining up his putt, and then you take a picture of Paul Macbeth when he lets go of his putt, you can sync them two and they're exact. So he always hits where he's lined up. How does he do that? That's very difficult. Well, if you watch him, he moves around a lot, gets set, that doesn't matter. That's all part of his inner feeling. But as he putts it, he really comes in extremely slow like this, if you see this. And then at the end, he goes forward, right? If you do that style, what happens is if you come in slow, then it's much easier to hit where you came from. But if you're one of those players that drops it kind of fast when you get nervous or you think too much and you drop it really quick, then it's really hard. And sometimes you'll release it here, sometimes you release it here because you can't see yourself. So that's how a push putt and a spin putt look. Those are some of the reasons that people have succeeded with them. And go to infinitedisc.com. Thank you.